April 26, 1986. A quiet night in Soviet Ukraine turned into one of the most catastrophic technological failures in human history. The Chernobyl nuclear power plant didn't just explode. It shattered trust in nuclear energy, poisoned landscapes, and helped unravel a superpower. Today, we will uncover what really happened, why it happened, and how its consequences still echo across the globe. April 25, 1986. Reactor 4 at Chernobyl was scheduled for routine maintenance. But before shutting down, engineers wanted to run a safety test, a test designed to simulate a power outage. The question: could the turbines keep coolant pumps running long enough for backup generators to start? On paper, it sounded simple. In reality, it was a recipe for disaster. The test had been attempted before, but never successfully. This time, it was delayed repeatedly due to grid demands. By the time the night shift took over, the reactor was in an unstable state. Power had dropped far below safe levels, and operators, under pressure to finish, made a critical decision. They pulled out most of the control rods to raise power. Here's the problem. RBMK reactors had a dangerous design flaw. When power is low, they become unstable. And with safety systems disabled for the test, the reactor was a ticking bomb. At 1:23 a.m., the test began. Turbine power dropped, coolant flow slowed, and steam pockets formed in the core. In an RBMK reactor, steam doesn't calm the reaction, it accelerates it. The reactor surged violently. Operators hit the AZ5 button, the emergency shutdown. But the graphite-tipped control rods made things worse. When inserted, they displaced coolant and introduced graphite into the core, spiking reactivity. In less than 5 seconds, the reactor's power shot to more than 100 times its normal level. Fuel channels ruptured. Steam explosions tore through the reactor vessel. Then came the second blast, a massive explosion that blew the 1,000-ton lid into the night sky. The roof was gone. The core was exposed. Flames danced on the graphite blocks, sending radioactive particles into the atmosphere. The world had just witnessed the worst nuclear accident in history. The explosions shattered the night. Reactor 4 was now an open wound, spewing radioactive material into the air. But no one outside the control room truly understood what had happened. Within minutes, firefighters from Pripyat raced to the scene. They thought it was a simple electrical fire. No protective suits. No dosimeters. Just water hoses and courage. They climbed onto the roof, where chunks of glowing graphite lay scattered like embers. Some picked them up with bare hands, unaware they were holding death itself. The radiation was invisible, but its effects were immediate. Metallic taste in the mouth. Nausea. Skin burning as if under the sun, though it was midnight. These men fought bravely, but many would not live to see the next month. Inside the control room, chaos reigned. Operators were stunned. Instruments were failing. Some still believed the reactor was intact. They tried to pump water into a core that no longer existed. Meanwhile, outside, the city of Pripyat slept peacefully under a silent radioactive cloud. Children played in sandboxes the next morning. Parents walked dogs. No one knew that invisible particles were settling on their clothes, their food, their lungs. The Soviet response: silence. No alarms. No warnings. The first official evacuation order wouldn't come until 36 hours later. By then, radiation had already spread across Ukraine, Belarus, and beyond. The explosion didn't just devastate Chernobyl, it poisoned the skies. In the hours after the blast, radioactive particles shot nearly a kilometer into the atmosphere. Winds carried them across Ukraine, Belarus, and Russia, then into Scandinavia and Western Europe. Sweden was the first to sound the alarm, not the Soviet Union. The numbers are staggering. Chernobyl released about 400 times more radiation than the Hiroshima bomb. The plume contained iodine-131, cesium-137, and strontium-90. Elements that linger for decades. Closer to the plant, the land became a toxic wasteland. The Red Forest, just west of Reactor 4, absorbed so much radiation that its pine trees turned crimson and died within days. Entire villages were abandoned. Farmland was contaminated, forcing bans on crops and livestock across Europe for years. The contamination wasn't uniform. Rainstorms created hot spots hundreds of miles away. In some areas, radiation levels were thousands of times above normal. Even today, wild boars in Germany and mushrooms in Scandinavia show elevated cesium levels. And then there was water. Rivers and reservoirs near Chernobyl carried radioactive isotopes downstream, threatening drinking supplies. Emergency crews dumped tons of boron, sand, and lead into the reactor to stop the fire, but this created another problem. A molten mass of radioactive material forming deep inside, the infamous elephant's foot. The fallout wasn't just environmental, it was psychological. Fear spread faster than radiation. Parents kept children indoors. Governments scrambled to reassure citizens. Anti-nuclear movements surged worldwide, reshaping energy policy for decades. Over 600,000 liquidators, soldiers, miners, engineers were sent to clean up, often with minimal protection. Many developed cancers and chronic illnesses. Official death tolls remain disputed. 31 immediate deaths, thousands of later fatalities from radiation-induced diseases. Childhood thyroid cancer surged in Belarus and Ukraine. Today, Reactor 4 sits beneath the new safe confinement, a massive steel structure designed to last a century. It cost over $2 billion and took decades to complete. Beneath it lies the original sarcophagus, hastily built in 1986, now crumbling under time and radiation. The exclusion zone remains one of the most haunting places on Earth. Entire towns frozen in time. Schools with textbooks still open. Ferris wheels that never spun. Yet nature has reclaimed the land. Wolves, lynx, and wild horses roam freely, thriving in the absence of humans, a paradox of life flourishing in death's shadow. Globally, Chernobyl changed everything. Nuclear programs were halted or scaled back. Germany accelerated its anti-nuclear movement. International safety standards tightened. The disaster became a case study in engineering ethics, crisis management, and the dangers of secrecy. But the lessons go beyond technology. Chernobyl exposed the cost of silence. The Soviet government's delay in admitting the truth worsened the disaster and eroded trust. Transparency isn't optional, it's survival. And yet the debate continues. Some argue nuclear energy is still vital for a low-carbon future. Others see Chernobyl as proof that the risks outweigh the benefits. One thing is certain. Chernobyl is not just history, it's a warning. A reminder that progress without accountability can turn triumph into tragedy. Thanks for watching. If you learned anything, or if I at least entertained you today, please consider hitting the like button and subscribing. The almighty algorithm decides who gets recommended my videos based on the amount of views versus likes and subscriptions. I wish I didn't have to ask, but please do consider pressing like and subscribe.